Hey folks, Mr. Dell here. We're looking at a problem that has to do with transformations, rotations, and reflections specifically. So this is something I'm taking from CPM course 3, and it is section 6.2.3, number 6-75. So I'll read it, we'll talk about it, and talk about what rotations and reflections are. So look carefully at the key at the right. So here's my key. And which of the keys below could you create by spinning, or that's what we call a rotation, the original key? And then another question, which keys could you create by flipping or reflecting the original key? Show how you know. So I've got here, this is the page here with that original key. But what I did is I did a little cutout of that same key so I can show you those rotations and reflections. So remember now, a rotation is putting a pin on a part of the object. And in this case, it kind of makes sense to put a pin on the, say, right where the keyhole is, right? And then you rotate it either clockwise or counterclockwise. Right now, I'm rotating it clockwise, right? So the same direction that uh, that you would see an actual clock hand spin, right? So I'm actually going to use a little pin here to show like a little, put that in there. So notice as it spins, it's spinning clockwise, right? And these are all the positions that I can get it to be in with just rotation. So that's a rotation, and rotations happen around a point. So I could be rotating it around the end of the key, the middle of the key, but this I'm just rotating. Either way, its orientation is always going to be the same. So notice here's an orientation by doing a rotation. So rotating it that way is clockwise, right? If I were to go the other direction and rotate it this direction, that would be counterclockwise, the opposite way. So if I'm going to rotate it, let's go rotate it clockwise, and I rotate it there, that would be a 90-degree rotation. And that would be the orientation of my key, right? If I rotate it or continue on right there, that rotation all the way around there would be 180 degrees, again, clockwise. If I continue to rotate it, and it rotates up to the top. Now, from there all the way around would be a 270 degree rotation, again, clockwise. But I could get to this same spot. Watch, I can also, if I start in the original position and I rotate it counterclockwise, lost my pen there. I'll just spin it here. And I rotate it counterclockwise around that spin that way, that's counterclockwise. That you can go 90 degrees as well. So that'll get you in that same spot. So if you look at all the positions, and now let me look at my keys here. I can see one, I can see that B is this one here. And how would I have gotten this? So this would have been a rotation. Oops. That one would be a rotation, and we would do 180 degrees clockwise. Or it could have been 180 degrees counterclockwise. Both would have got there. So that's a rotation. I see another one by the rotation, right? So again, if I'm spinning it and I get to here, that's this one here. That's part C. So that is also a rotation. And again, it can be clockwise 270 degrees. So clockwise 270 degrees. Or you could say counterclockwise 90 degrees, right? Counterclockwise is the other direction, opposite of the way that the clock hands move. So either direction. So those are rotations. Now, looking at A and D, I can't, again, I can't spin it and get to this position. There's no way for me to get that spun to be looking like that. Notice the key um, spokes there are facing up. Here they're facing down. So how do I get it to look like this? So this is um, not a rotation, not only a rotation, but also a reflection, right? To get it to reflect. So let's start with A actually, because I want A, first of all, to end up flipping around and facing up, right? I need it to somehow face up that direction. Well, that right there, and it's harder for me to show you with this little piece of paper because when I flip it over, you don't see the key anymore. So what we're doing with this one is this would be a reflection because it's a mirror, right? If I were to let me put my key here. Here's the original, and I'll put the original next to that. So if I were to show like this being this line, if I were to draw a little line here, and that being a mirror, right? If pretend this was a mirror, that's a reflection. And you see the key looks like it's flipped around and it's facing the other way because that's a reflection. That's how our reflection is. When we look into a mirror, we see ourselves like as if we're standing and facing us, right? That's if this was here and if the mirror was here and the key was looking in that mirror, it would see itself looking back at itself, right? I mean, if we can think of it as personification here of this key, it would be looking in the mirror and seeing itself back in the mirror, staring at itself. That's what a mirror does. It reflects your image. So either way I put it, if I had my mirror here back to back, that's a reflection of the mirror. So this is what we would say. We would call this a reflection across, and it would be considered a horizontal reflection. So it's a horizontal across a horizontal line. And when we're on a grid, we could define that line, and it could be the x-axis, could be a y equals some number, but we're not going to define it. We're just going to say it's a across the horizontal line is a reflection. That's what A is. So D, how do I get D to, now D, the original is D, here, but if we look, it just a reflection only won't get me there, right? If I think about it and I'm able to do this 180 degree rotation, now I have it to where at that point, now it can be also a reflection. So this is a double transformation. So we would first, a rotation. So the first thing for D would be a rotation, 180 degrees clockwise. And then the second thing would be a reflection, and I'll just abbreviate a little bit, a horizontal reflection. That would be the second step for D. So a rotation 100 degrees, 180 degrees clockwise, and then a horizontal reflection. Notice that. So, right? So if it's starting here, and then I would first rotate it 180 degrees, and then notice what's going to have to happen here is it's back to back. It then reflects itself back. The mirror would be a horizontal reflection. Okay? All right. I hope that helps.